Welcome back to theCUBE's live stream here at the FinOps X in San Diego 2026. I'm John Furrier, my co-host Paul Nashawaty with theCUBE Research, breaking down all the action and the analysis around the FinOps and the tokenomics new foundation that was launched here today. As the world thrives forward with AI, from AI infrastructure to AI applications, the costs are front and center because the value is being realized. Now they're trying to put the cost, figure out the total cost of ownership. All this still while the developer market explodes and expands to any AI builder. Harish Doddala is here, General Manager and SVP at Harness, the company we've covered many times on theCUBE. Great to see you. Thanks for coming on theCUBE here at FinOps X.
Great to be here.
So cost is at the center of the proposition. We've seen this movie before in the cloud. Paul's documented it, he's got stats, he's got surveys. So, but it was a slower roll up as Kubernetes and containers and all those cloud native architectures evolved. That's now the foundation. AI is coming in super fast. So, what's going on? People want to know. Who spent that money? What is that for? Was that from engineers? Was that from users? This is the C-suite's view. Meanwhile, the tech scene is exploding because there's so much innovation. How are you guys handling this? And by the way, everyone uses the word harness all the time in every agent conversation. Are you guys the harness of agents? Only kidding, but what's your take on this world right now?
Yeah, so we do consider ourselves to be the harness of agents. Essentially, if you think about what an agent is, right? Agent does reasoning tasks, and sometimes we want to make sure that it's doing the right thing, it's secure, it's cost efficient, and it has the right agent harness, if you will, to get the tasks done. So that's kind of how we look at it. Now, in terms of the arc, cloud basically went through this arc for the last 15 years.
Sure.
Right? Now, FinOps, the whole discipline got created in this time period in the last 10 or 15 years. AI, it's basically, all of this is happening in months. You don't have the same luxury of time. Like the costs are already started to explode. So companies are sort of looking at it in terms of where are the costs going? How do what do I attribute that cost towards? How do I optimize those costs and ultimately govern those costs, right? So the whole arc is shrinking in months, essentially, to when you compare that to what cloud went through.
I remember the app dynamic days, not to throw that into the mix, but there's some heritage with the founder who I've interviewed. That was a really application performance management phase, was an early software concept. In a way, we are living that right now. What's the telemetry? Not a lot of people are sharing their telemetry data. Common language with focus.
Yes.
These are really big ideas happening right now. What's this look like? How do people measure? What is your view on this? Because you got to measure, you can't put a value on something you don't measure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think ultimately it comes down to tying the cost economics to usage, right? And as you rightly pointed out, app dynamics, a lot of us come from that DNA.
Yeah.
A lot of us came from app dynamics. So we have that telemetry, the observability background. So ultimately, when we want to get down to outcomes, you want to be able to understand what the utilization and the usage is, and then take all of that data and tie it to costs. Only then would you go beyond what you're getting from APIs, what you're getting from broad connectors, because you want to know exactly how much did that session cost you. How many tokens were consumed in that session? What model was invoked? So you can go back and look at it holistically and optimize those sessions.
How complex is it? Scope the complexity. Because in all these ways, there's always complexity, but also abstraction with software. I mean, it makes the old software telemetry look really trivial, at least my opinion. What is your opinion on this? What's the complexity? Can you just share the scope of the complexity and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you think about traces, I mean, there is token consumption at the end of the day is something which happens at a much smaller scale as compared to the cloud, but it happens at massive volumes. Cloud was about optimizing an instance, about trying to figure out what unattached volumes and all those things. But in this case, the token unit itself might be small, but it's being consumed at massive scale. So when that that needs to be mapped to sessions, it needs to be mapped to spans. You need to be able to get that millisecond and second granularity for you to understand exactly what is really going on, which model is being invoked.
So models are changing and rapidly kind of moving away from what traditional infrastructures looked like before, right? And this is like a different approach for when you're trying to understand like the cost, you're trying to understand, because you had a longer runway, so to speak, historically. Now it's much shorter, right? And also we're seeing organizations are measuring production or productivity based on usage of tokens, right? That's not a good measurement either, because it's like it's just burning tokens for no reason. What are your thoughts around like these changes and how does automation play into this as well?
Yeah, so the first step is to start gaining adoption across all the users. It's important to gain adoption, but then token maxing almost is becoming a negative term.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
It has been.
Yeah, and people are starting to gravitate towards how do you map token maxing to outcome maxing? So it doesn't matter if the users sort of get access to all the tools, what are they doing out of it? What are the high value use cases that they're working on? How is it meaningfully moving the needle for the business? I think that's what is important. And when you look at it from a unit economic standpoint, what are the use cases it's driving, whether it's support use cases, whether it's making workflows more efficient, that's where companies want to get to.
So a lot of practitioners are saying the big items, the big achievements are kind of gone, right? And they want to understand what optimization really wants, what it looks like, right? So what's left that's granular at code level and that requires automation? What's needed at that level at this point?
Yeah, so when we think about optimization, the top 3 things that we are seeing across our customers is basically the following. We're looking at, when you think about which model is the agent invoking? Is it going through these retry loops several times to come up with the same answer? And is it do we have the right kind of caching, the right kind of token compression, and so on in place? So basically model selection, retry loops, and token compression. Those are the 3 aspects that we see to a large extent that customers are experiencing pain in. So the optimization essentially has to map to that.
Yeah.
How do you figure out what model could be applicable for that use case? In some use cases, for example, we had a customer who's talking about fraud detection. Now fraud detection, you need to get millisecond-level granularity to be able to figure out if this is fraudulent or not.
Right.
So you can't have an analytical model that's spinning in the background to be able to answer this use case. At the same time, if you're investigating an incident, the incident can basically have more of an analytical model. So it's really trying to figure out what bag of use cases maps to what models.
Yeah.
On the blockers in this market, because FinOps is exploding, got token economics foundation, what are some of the blockers or to-dos that need to be worked through? How would you stack rank them? Because it seems to be really kind of stage 0. What's going on in the tokens and the infrastructure is one today. What are the other blockers that you guys are seeing with your customers?
I think one of the blockers that we see is really, and I was just talking to a customer this morning who was mentioning, I just want to know, there's a sprawl of usage across the company today. I don't have it all in one place. I want to start by centralizing all of that information. I want to understand exactly who's using what AI providers are they using? Are they using it from different applications, different SaaS tools? What are they doing with it? I think that's one of the main starting points to understand what is all of that. And the second thing is for them to be able to attribute those costs. Because for them to be able to optimize to your earlier point, they need to know who's spending what, which team, which developer, and then what use cases they are. So right now, I think the problem is a little bit of a blind spots in some of these things where trying to understand where is all the spend, where is the sprawl, and where is the sprawl across all the use cases and the applications. So that's where most companies are starting with.
That makes sense, I understand that. But then when you apply AI use cases on top of it, it's almost like there's an initiative to push AI into everything. Where does AI not make sense for FinOps?
That's a good question. So let me put it this way. I think, at the end of the day, there's a lot of use cases where AI might be very useful for, which is top of mind. For example, reporting, access to data,
sure.
Explaining what you're looking at on the screen, for example. Maybe trying to get to that first level of understanding what the anomalies are. Those are all low-hanging fruit kind of use cases, right? But when you get to the next level of use cases where you want to actually suggest what model is suited for what workload, you want to figure out exactly how much to commit to. How do you predict what your usage might be? You can't leave that completely to an agent.
Right.
So those are sometimes irreversible decisions as well, right? Because it has an impact on the performance and it has an impact on the quality. So those are some use cases which I wouldn't say it doesn't qualify to be AI, but needs to have human in the loop.
Human in the loop still involved, yeah.
So I got to ask you, just to wrap up, is on your vision with Harness, you guys are in the arena, you're seeing all the action with customers. Where do you see the puck going, and what are you doing for customers specifically to help them? Because everyone that's winning is leaning in. And it's a frontier position, because it's pain and suffering, but the fruits of the labor, like cloud native, is huge. What's your vision on this?
So I'll mention two things. At Harness, our mission has always been putting developers front and center. We are a software delivery lifecycle company, and we are the AI for everything after code. So we believe that developers are really integral to be able to make those changes and be effective in terms of reducing and optimizing those costs. The second thing I'll mention is that reporting and being able to slice and dice the costs is becoming almost commoditized. The next frontier is to be able to optimize those costs, but it's also to be able to outcome max versus token max. Right? So it's sort of trying to understand what the use cases are, how do you drive unit economics, and then how do you drive optimization and automation. So those are, I would say, developers being front and center and empowering them to be able to take those actions, and two is for them to be able to optimize and gain efficiencies.
It's interesting, Paul and I were talking here at the show, and as well as on the research side, that you're starting to see the multidisciplinary blending. You got to be a builder, operator, and an investor. And an investor mindset is not like writing checks. You got to think okay, I need to use that cash. Optimization is clear ROI on that flywheel. You kind of saw it at DevOps, but from an IT perspective. Just your reaction to that. It's very entrepreneurial thinking, but it's also empowering.
Absolutely.
What is your opinion on this?
Yeah, so when we ask these questions internally, for example, we're talking about adoption across our engineering organization, the question on our CTO's mind is not only about adoption, but it's about efficient adoption, right? Yeah. And from a financial standpoint, it's about predictability and driving unit economics and the right kind of capital allocation. And from a business and a product standpoint, that's to your point, right? How do you drive the right outcomes and the right financial outcomes, and make sure that you're getting more dollars for the dollars that you invest in that. Yeah. So I think those are sort of the three buckets in which how we think about it.
Well, Harish, thanks for coming on, and of course, the word harness is becoming a verb. You got to have that harness moving the workloads.
Absolutely.
Congratulations,
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on theCUBE.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I'm John Furrier with Paul Nashawaty here. We're day one. We had day 0 yesterday, breaking it down before the keynote, kind of pre-gaming on theCUBE here. The data's coming out, you're seeing agentic and Gen AI driving the FinOps category while tokenomics foundation is being established. The gas to the car, as we've been saying here in theCUBE. More coverage after this break.